This week's episode is brought to you by Fairy Godmother Travel, the only way to travel to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and all those other Disney places. Contact them today at Communicore Weekly at fairygodmothertravel.com.
Communicore Weekly. Come on and get geeky. With Bible round boats and five-legged goats. Communicore Weekly. You might get some freaking. You waited all week. I'm sure you already know that it's the greatest online show.
Hello and welcome to Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show and home of the world's first pair of independently born identical twins. I'm George.
I'm Jeff. What's up?
Oh, nothing.
You were gone last week, George.
Yes, I know we had that lost episode.
I know, it was so cool to go
Wasn't
back
that
and
cool?
listen to it and be like, wow, we sounded so young.
We sounded so young.
We did. We just
With
sounded
the-
like baby podcasters.
The stress of life hadn't hit us yet.
That's what it was.
That's exactly what it was.
Mhm,
You know, I hope people enjoyed it. You know, we made it back to the island and... Or wait a minute. That's a
Don't
different podcast.
stop giving away spoilers, George. You always do this.
Sorry.
That's okay. The reason you were gone last week, you're going to explain today in the Troop Report, aren't you?
Exactly. It's a different type of trip report, which is kind of exciting.
Ooh.
I mean, still theme parks and stuff like that, and there's some Disney in there.
Even better. Well, let's listen.
So, hey, all right.
I'm step, jump, and skip. We took a trip, and this is our trip
Okay, so I got invited down to Central Florida, I guess we'll call it, by Busch Gardens Tampa and SeaWorld to take part in their Coaster Crusade on National Roller Coaster Day, which was August 16th. I think it was August 16th.
You forgot already.
We'll-
You would think the day
we'll go
made
with that.
specifically for you would remember.
I would have remembered that date. So, but yeah, it was a special tours they set up where they invited various people from the media, various people from the American Coaster Enthusiasts to come down, and you either started at Busch Gardens or you started at SeaWorld. I got started at Busch Gardens, and we were scheduled to ride all 8 of the coasters at Busch Gardens, and then they were going to take us on a shuttle bus, a Mir shuttle, to SeaWorld, and we were going to ride the 5 coasters there. And there was a second group that started at SeaWorld and did it the exact opposite. So 13 coasters, one day, the most amount of coasters in Central Florida, owned by any theme park, conglomeration, I guess we'll call it. So it was super fun. My friend Bill, who's Mr. Coaster 1 on YouTube, let me borrow his GoPro and a wrist strap. He mailed it to me, so I got some great POV footage I've been putting on the internets. But yeah, it was fun. So for starters, you know, I drove down and stopped it south of the border.
Of course you did.
I-95. I had to. Hadn't done it in years, and it was sad and depressing.
Now,
It wasn't as cool
I was
as
going to say, by
wanted
sad
it
and
to be, or as I
depressing, do you mean
remember it.
awesome or...
No, it wasn't as cool as I wanted it to be. There was a lot of fantastic cement sculptures everywhere, and you know they had the sombrero tower that you could ride, but it just seems like it needed to be kept up a little bit better, and it just got a little bit long in the tooth.
You need to be
So-
kept up a little better.
So I mean, yeah, if you're stopping on the way, it's a fun place to stop. You know, they got an arcade, they got some theme park or amusement park rides, restaurants, places to buy fireworks. But I was really more excited about getting down to Florida. So, but I drove through Orlando, even though the way I'm going to Tampa would have been just as quicker, so I could stop and visit Disney Springs. Because I visited last year before they had done a lot of the construction, and now that they're almost completely finished with it, I wanted to see how amazing it was. I mean, you drive off of I-4 right into a Disney Springs parking garage, which is fantastic.
It's like, that's very convenient.
And yeah, it's very convenient, and you know, it's a modern parking garage, love it. But came out right next to the New World of Coke, and walked through the train depot, which is like a covered esplanade with some shops in it, and walked into the town center. And I was blown away by how beautiful it is, how well designed it is. You don't feel like you're at Pleasure Island or the Disney Village. And that's a little sad because I miss that nostalgia.
I miss that too.
Of those places. But it's really well done, and it's a place I wanted to be, for one thing. The great layouts. It ties beautifully in with the other parts, like Pleasure Island and the West Side that they've had. They've tied it in all well together. Wonderful, wonderful fountains everywhere, because of course alluding to the Disney Springs. Very upscale, but in a good way. I've heard people refer to it as like sort of upscale outlet mall. Sure, that's what it is, but I really enjoyed being there. Food choices were fantastic. I got to sample a little bit of it, had a great time. I got to where I felt a little lost, and it sort of reminded me a bit like being in New Orleans Square.
Okay.
Or the Morocco Pavilion, where you didn't feel like you were in a themed environment. They had second floor balconies and tableaus set up. It was wonderful. I was really impressed. Kudos to Disney for paying attention to the little details that, they didn't need to. So well done. Well done, Disney. Visit Disney Springs if you get the chance. Check it out. But let's talk about the Coaster Crusade.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
We're all set out to ride all 13 coasters. I had the wrist strap from my friend Bill with the GoPro Hero 4 on it, which was incredible. I've got to get me one of those. And showed up at Busch Gardens, Tampa about 8 o'clock in the morning. It was my second time there. I went last year and met with the PR people and a group of others. There were probably about 20 or 25 of us or so. Split us up into teams. I was Team Blue, like Team Mystic. For
okay.
Pokemon Go,
I
right?
guess.
Oh, you're not Team Mystic?
No.
You're Team Instinct, aren't you?
No, I'm Team Valor.
I knew you were.
Of course I am.
Unvalor. So, but the idea was they were going to let us ride all the roller coasters and let us get POV footage and, tweet and talk about it, do all social media stuff. Once they got us, they gave us water, which is wonderful. And, it's 8:30 in the morning in Florida and it's already 90. You're like, what's going on?
My favorite.
What is this? So the first one up was Montu, which is an inverted Bollinger Mablard coaster. Got to ride it in the front seat next to my friend Rob and some other people. Got some great footage. And they walked us through other parts of the park. I mean, it's empty. The park doesn't open for an hour at least. There's employees walking around cleaning stuff, doing stuff. Cars parked in weird places.
Weird.
But it was fun. They took us to Falcon's Fury, which I did not ride because it's not a roller coaster. It's a very scary drop tower where they take you up to the top and they turn the seat and face the seat downward. And they drop you while you're facing down.
Is that considered one of the roller coasters, or?
No, but it was just an extra for the day.
Okay, fair enough.
Just something thrilling. So I didn't ride that one. I watched it and got scared. And then we went and rode Sand Serpent, which is a cute little mouse coaster. Scorpion, which is an old Schwarzkopf looper, which was interesting to have such tight loops. And Kumba, which I'd ridden before. And probably one of the funnest rides and the shortest rides of the day was Air Grover.
Like Grover from Sesame Street.
Yes, from Sesame Street.
That's amazing.
He was there too, hanging out with everybody, which was great. But by the time I was like, "Yay, Air Grover!" Down the first hill, we went a loop. Oh, it's over.
Wait, I'm confused. They literally have a character called Super Grover, so why wasn't it called Super Grover instead?
I don't know. I brought that up, and everybody's like, "What?" I was like,
We don't
Super
talk about
Grover's my
that.
favorite one, but he came out and danced with some people and gave high fives and took photos and stuff. So it was really cool. And sadly, the last coaster of the day at Busch Gardens, Tampa, was supposed to be Cobra's Curse, which is their new spinning coaster, family coaster, but it was out of order. That happens. So our last ride was Shikra, which was the dive coaster. Where they take you 200 some odd feet in the air and they hang you over the 91-degree vertical drop for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you go through, and obviously I hadn't mastered the GoPro even at that point because halfway through the loop it sort of fell over. So I got a really great video of my seat restraint for part of it.
So really quality footage is what you're saying.
Exactly. Really, really, really quality footage. So they hustled us back out to the parking lot, put us on the bus, the Mir shuttle, gave us a lunch, which was really nice. And in a flash drive, which I'd show you the flash drive, it looks like a Cobra.
That's kind of cool.
Pretty cool. It's kind of cool. And so then they took us to SeaWorld, and halfway through the drive to Orlando, the bottom fell out, and it rained and rained and rained and rained.
But, I mean, Orlando, so you kind of expected that, I guess?
You expect it, and we all looked at our radar on our phones. The PR people were like, it should blow away, we'll be okay. we get there. They bring us in the back entrance at the ports of call, and give us some more water and some snacks, and tell us what we're going to do the rest of the day. I mean, there's 5 more coasters at SeaWorld we're excited about, but we had to wait for the rain and the lightning to go away, because roller coasters are giant lightning rods.
What do you mean?
Exactly. Go figure. Giant metal. So they take us onto this attraction called Arctic Express, which I had never done before, because this is my very first time at SeaWorld ever. Mm-hmm. And imagine Star Tours, but with a different film, but they didn't change the movement of the simulator. And you're basically going into the Arctic.
Interesting.
And it's a very old, it's a first generation simulator, very old. Doors were shaking on it. We did not know what was going on. And then they took us into a giant Arctic base. We got to walk around and see some of the animals in there. And then we just said, well, let's wait out here by the sharks. Yeah, baby sharks that you could usually pet. I don't know why. It's okay.
Okay, whatever.
But we just sort of waited, and it's like, we'll wait for the rain to blow through, and the thunder to go away. So we sat there for about an hour.
And nothing?
Nothing happened. I caught a bunch of Pokemon. I was near a Pokestop, so I was able to refill, get a bunch more Pokeballs and revives and stuff like that. And then about 3:30, they said, well, let's see, we're going to head towards Mako. We think we're going to get you guys on a ride. And they take us through the shark reef, which was pretty neat. It's like one of those, it's an aquarium that you go sort of through the middle of it on a conveyor belt, which I love those. Because you're right underneath.
Yeah, you get right in the action.
Absolutely love them, yeah. So we did that, saw sharks going by. It was pretty scary. And then we get out, and we're waiting for a few minutes, and they finally said, the thunder's not going to stop, so we can't get on any coasters.
That is the worst.
That's the worst. But they drove us back to Busch Gardens, Tampa. And, of course, no fault to anybody at SeaWorld. They were fantastic. They were gracious. Appreciate the time. But sadly, we couldn't get on any of the coasters. And by the time we got back to Busch Gardens, it had closed, and we found out Cobra's Curse was opening. That it had been working, but that's okay. I'm going back in November for IAPA. They're going to take me for another tour around SeaWorld, and so I'm excited. So I'll get to do my other coasters.
That is super exciting.
Unless it rains again, and that just means every time I go to SeaWorld, it rains.
It's cursed. You've cursed SeaWorld with rain.
Which is cursed. So I know the other group that started in Orlando and went to SeaWorld, they got to ride everything, which is okay. I'm not that bitter. Just a little. Little bitter.
Little bitter?
Just a little. But it was a fantastic experience, and I never realized there were that many coasters in Central Florida. You think about the handful at Disney and Universal, but then you've got the 5 at SeaWorld and the 8 at Busch Gardens Tampa.
Yeah.
And a little tip, if you are staying in Central Orlando and you do not have transportation, there is a shuttle that goes every day that's free from SeaWorld to Busch Gardens, and it'll bring you back in the evening.
Good to know.
So you don't have to rent a car, and you can visit Busch Gardens Tampa, which is a wonderful park. Fantastic animal experiences, really good food, and some awesome coasters. So I'm glad I got to do it. So, we'll put out a link to some of my POV videos on some of our social medias or something like that.
Please do. I want to see
whatever
them.
we do. Yeah. So we'll have fun with it. And occasionally I was riding with my friend Rob from another podcast, and the whole time he's on the roller coaster, he just screams the name of the roller coaster, which I've never heard anybody do. He's Cheetah Hunt. Oh, I forgot. We rode Cheetah Hunt too, which is awesome.
Oh, I hear that one's fun.
Coaster I've ever been on at Busch Gardens, but it actually tells a story, which is wonderful.
That's interesting for a roller coaster.
Not like Rock and Roller Coaster where you're late to change a screen after 17 years, but this is where you are the cheetah and you're hunting, and it's fantastic.
That's cool.
So,
I dig that.
Had a great time at the Coaster Crusade. Hope they do it again next year. Would love to go back and see if we can get all 13 in one day this time.
He's a nerd, he's a geek, but we all like to hear him speak. So listen up to the words from his speech. It's George's Book of the Week.
So I've had a lot of questions over the past couple of weeks about Disney biographies, especially on Twitter. So I wanted to hit a few of the best books, actually 2 of them, that I think everybody should read. First one up is Walt Disney, an American Original by Bob Thomas. And we've talked about Thomas before. He wrote the great book about Roy Disney, but he worked closely with Walt on a few projects, including a book on animation, and Thomas was offered the opportunity to write the first authorized biography of Walt, which was published in 1976, 10 years after Walt's passing. And Thomas had interviewed many of Walt's staff and peers, as well as relied on a lot of information from the archives and Dave Smith. And sometimes it's considered a little too saccharine, or a little too, maybe it's been glossed over. But I think for the most part, Bob Thomas had a really good look at Walt Disney, and it's a book I highly recommend, especially if you're just getting into the company. It's a great place to start. But my favorite biography is The Animated Man by Michael Barrier, and it was published in 2007, and he's an animation historian who's written so many books about animation and has written a prominent magazine called Funny World in the 70s. And he really looks at Walt's life more through the lens of animation than he does anything else. But he does talk about Disneyland and the theme parks, but it really looks at the man and how he was formed through his art. So I really, really love The Animated Man. It's probably my favorite one. And a lot of people, though, ask me about Neil Gabler's Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. And it's one that I really tell people to try to stay away from. The Gabler's book is extremely negative. He was given unprecedented access to the archives, and afterwards they sort of shut down the archives to outside visitors. Don't know if it has something to do with that.
Just seems like suspicious timing to me.
It's a little suspicious, but I do know that the Walt Disney family has, basically said they don't approve of this biography as well. And there's a lot that Michael Barrier's gone in and found mistakes in Gabler's book as well. It's just so negative, I just really didn't enjoy it. And compared to Bob Thomas's book, which could be a little, like I mentioned, saccharine, a little bit glossy. If you read the American original by Bob Thomas and you read The Animated Man by Michael Barrier, you're going to get a really fantastic look at his life, at Walt Disney's life, from a few different angles. I think it's worth it for your time to take a look at both of those. So we got 2 books for the Book of the Week?
Sure, Books of the Week it is.
We'll do it.
What we liked, what we didn't like, gays in the booze. 60-second review.
So The Jungle Book, the film, hit the big screens over the summer, and it really didn't do much. I saw a few positive reviews, but nothing that made me really want to go see it. The Animal Kingdom added a night show based on The Jungle Book. I know, Half Night Park.
Shush
no,
you.
I'm not gonna say it. But I still didn't really have a big interest in seeing the film, even on Blu-ray. But it showed up as a review copy, and I had a little bit of interest. Wanted to see what it was, and so hey, we're reviewing it for you guys.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to catch it either, but there was some positive hype around it. So when it showed up, I immediately popped it into the Blu-ray player. And I know George and I were discussing before, we have slightly different takes on it, but I will start off by saying I was pleasantly surprised, but also slightly underwhelmed at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yes, technologically, it was pretty spectacular. The story was missing a lot.
Yeah.
And we know you can't just have this movie because of the technology. Dinosaur.
Avatar.
yeah, same thing. But my 12-year-old started watching with us, left after like 10 minutes, came back like a half hour later and just sat down and loved the last half of the movie. It was the weirdest thing, but it's got some big name stars in it, so I just don't know why it was so uneven.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, it wasn't a musical like Disney's original animated film, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But there were 2, I guess, musical-like numbers included, which kind of, in my opinion, were some of the best portions of the entire film. However, the lead actor as well, I really, really loved his performance, especially when considering that he was acting against a green screen for pretty much the entire film. Like, for such a young performer, he was quite versatile.
Yeah, and he had that same diaper on for like 9 months.
I know, he didn't have to change his costume. It was amazing.
It was great. So the actor, his name was Neil Sethi. I'm assuming I'm saying that wrong. He did do an incredible job. But, in one of the extras, you sort of get to see how they brought the Jungle Book to life. And a lot of the time, it was Neil acting against Jon Favreau, or a puppet from Jim Henson Studios, which I thought was kind of cool. that they brought the
Yeah.
Jim Henson Studios in for it. For instance, the scene where they're floating, him and Baloo are floating down the river. He was actually singing the song with Jon Favreau before they,
Well, Jon Favreau and Baloo are probably like the same size anyway, so it worked out pretty well.
The same size,
and the same personality, really.
Yeah, but the film itself, it was stunning because of the computer graphics and the artistry. I mean, this was one of those times where it was like, either they really made animals learn how to talk, or computers have gotten to the point where, it's ridiculous how good they are.
Yeah, and I was strangely attracted to Ka, the snake, for some reason, but I can't figure out why. I don't
see. Why didn't they make that character a Black Widow?
I don't know. That's weird. It would have made more sense.
Gigantic Black Widow
Would have made way more sense. Anyway,
I
so the extras on the disc, there was one looking directly at the main actor Neil and how he got into the role, and there's also this 30-minute behind the scenes documentary fluff piece, which had some good parts, but like George said, you're mostly viewing it for how fantastic the movie looks overall. At least once you need to see it.
Exactly, and I know we talked a little bit about the artist as well, and or the voice actors itself. It was you had mentioned it when we were talking about it earlier. When Bill Murray comes in as Baloo, that's sort of when the story picks up a whole bunch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that made a big change. And then when you've got the King Louie scene with Christopher Walken, it was hard for me to really. He started to look like Christopher Walken
in a way.
King Louie did.
Yeah,
it was like, whoa, what happened here? He is kind of scary. The voice acting was stellar. Computer graphics were amazing. I definitely think it's worth at least seeing it once. This might be a perfect, Redbox rental or something like that for this film.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to buy it unless you're a huge animal fan.
Sure. I would give it one thumb, maybe,
or one paw, one prickly pear.
Sure, whatever.
Or a prickly paw with a bear. All right. So yeah, this week we looked at the Jungle Book. Obviously, take a look at it, rent it, but may not need to buy it.
Sometimes you might see it, sometimes you don't. Hey, look, what's that? It's a five-legged goat.
Star Tours is great no matter what version of it you've been on. The original, 2.0, or even the new one with the Force Awakens stuff kind of shoehorned into the middle of the time travel story they have going on. But if you want to know how it was originally, you need to head over to the Sci-Fi Dine-In at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and you'll be able to see a little secret about it. So when you first walk in, if you head down the hallway to the right, you'll find some boxes with drawings on them. And if you look a little closer at the drawings, you'll see they'll feature a little robot and some other random stuff. And underneath it, you'll see the phrases like, Rex makes a sharp left bank as we continue our fall. Ahead, a crate can be seen entering the room. So these are actually the original storyboards for Star Tours. So when you look at the pictures, you'll see Rex on the left-hand side of every board, the main screen in the middle, which is the viewport, and the right has the screen showing, whoever popped up, whether it was R2-D2 or whatever, just like the real thing. So they wanted to give the audience a whole, the whole shebang of what they're looking at when you're on the attraction. So it's a cool little view into their process.
That's fantastic. But I do want to know how you get a crate that just can be seen entering the room. How's a crate enter the room?
Usually pretty loudly.
And they scrape a line.
Yeah, they have a little trouble walking and don't have legs. They just kind of roll. It's fine.
Exactly. Just do it that. It was the precursor to BB-8.
Yeah. BB Box. That's what it was.
BB Crate. No,
BB Crate. BB Crate. That works too.
Better.
That was a better joke.
Okay.
That was the one I should have went for.
Yeah, that's okay. So we will move on. So it is time for our Year of a Million or So Limited Time Cadets prize winner announcement.
Hooray!
And yay! In case you've been living under a Communicore rock or some other kind of rock. I guess there's lots of rocks.
There's a lot of rocks out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of rocks. You can enter this weekly contest. We're giving a prize away every week on the show, picking a lucky winner. Just have to email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com with your name and address. That's so important that we have your address.
Super important, guys.
So we can mail this out to you. Got a handful of shows left. We're getting down to less
18.
than 18 shows. 18 chances to win. Although you're all winners, but 18 chances to win a prize.
Yes, but 18 of you will be more winners than the rest.
More winnery?
Yeah, winnerist.
Okay. That'll work. So, okay, Jeff, so take it away with this week's prize.
Okay, so this week's prize is sponsored by Fairy Godmother Travel. Thank you, Teresa Corey. And the winner is Mark W. from Riverton, Utah.
Ooh, Riverton. I hope it's maybe a life jacket or a...
I don't know, maybe. I bet it's a canal town over there. They gotta use boats to get around, like Venice.
probably is like Venice. So Mark, send us a photo, put it on the social stuff that we do. We'd love to see the prize and see you enjoying the prize.
Yeah, please.
Exactly.
Especially enjoying it.
Exactly. So thank you guys. Wow, gonna end it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's it, George. Like, this is the time we end the show.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to another episode of Communicore Weekly.
However you listen to the show, whether it's on YouTube or iTunes, be sure to leave us a comment, leave us a rating. We'd love to hear what you think.
Yep, and you can email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com to enter the contest, or just say hey, or send us some cool bathroom photos.
You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Communicore Weekly.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm at Imaginerding. He's at Jeff Heimbach.
And of course, give us a call on the Communicore Weekly Goat line at 424-785-4628.
And you can visit communicoreweekly.spreadshirt.com to pick up some incredible Communicore Cadet clothing.
And you can also send away for your official cadet membership card and sticker. I just picked up 2 from the mailbox today. So make sure you send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Communicore Weekly, P.O. Box 432, Orange, California, 92856.
And you can visit patreon.com/Communicore Weekly to find out how you can support the greatest online show. For Jeff Heimbach, I'm George Taylor.
And for George Taylor, I'm Jeff Heimbach. Thanks so much for listening, guys and gals. We'll see you next time on Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show.